You may have a seat. Well, I got to know, is there anyone excited to be at church today? You are in for a treat. If you're brand new, my name is Pastor Rob. I'm one of the pastors here at the church. And today, you're getting to hear from one of my dear friends. He is a ministry coach. He is a church planner. He has planted a church that had multiple campuses. He is an author who's written multiple books. And I am really honored. If you've been around Next Level for a while, you've seen him. You've probably heard him preach. But I'm absolutely honored that we get to have him. I don't believe that a church our size has any business having someone like our guest today. It is a huge honor to have him. And I want to tell you just real quickly that who you're about to meet is one of my favorite people. He is my ministry coach, but he's also an answer to prayer. Next Level was started 11 years ago, and pretty quickly after I planted the church, I realized I was in over my head. And I started looking for coaching. And in the church world, the coaching circles tend to be very generic. You pay a lot of money for a coach that meets with about 10, 15 pastors, and he just gives you information. And you can't ask him specific questions about, hey, this is what's going on in my life. And I met with a friend of mine who worked at one of the nation's largest leadership conferences, and he meets with pastors all the time. And I met with him, and I said, hey, I'm desperate. I need some help. Is there anything out there where I can get just one-on-one coaching, where I can just say, hey, this is a problem, I need your help fixing it? And my friend said to me, that does not exist. It's not around. Well, a handful of months later, I ended up going on a trip to Haiti. The same friend invited me to go to Haiti. And the pastor that was leading this trip was a guy by the name of Chris Sonksen. And I had no idea who he was. I'd never heard of him before. He's a big name on the West Coast. On the East Coast, he's still making his way. But I'm hanging out with this group. It's 11 pastors, and one of them is Chris Sonksen, and we had a few interactions. And I thought, man, that he has a lot of energy. I like him, but I didn't even know he was a coach at the time. And after our trip to Haiti, a month later, I get a phone call, and it's Chris Sonksen. He says, hey, Rob, I would love to connect with you, and I'd love to come. I know you're a church planner. Can I come to your church and preach, and then I'll coach your team for the day? And I said, I am absolutely honored. I would love to have that, but we don't have money to bring any speakers in or to pay anyone, and I just wouldn't feel right. And he said, no, don't worry about it. It's on my dime. And so he came in and spoke to our church and then coached our team. And after that, he developed a relationship and said, hey, I would love to continue this relationship and coach your church staff. And so for the last 9-10 years, he has been our ministry coach who's helped us. He's walked us through so many big decisions. He's been someone that's been very influential in our church, and I'm so excited for you guys to hear from my coach and my mentor, Pastor Chris Sonksen. Would you help me give him a welcome here today?
Amen. Well, good morning. Man, that was an introduction from the West Coast. No one knows him on the East Coast, though. Total loser on the East Coast. It is awesome to be able to be with you. What a joy it is to be at Next Level Church. I'm sure I don't need to tell you, but you have some of the most amazing pastors. And Pastor Rob and Monica, would you give them an enormous hand? Amazing people, love them so much. We've actually vacationed together. We've hung out together a lot, and Monica is full of wisdom. She knows if you need a fact about anything in history, ask her. You know, in fact, anything about Hollywood, ask me, because Rob always makes fun of me. But anyway, hey, it is so awesome to be able to be with you guys. What a joy it is. And my name is Chris, and I'm the founding pastor of South Hills Church. We have a bunch of sites. And I do a bunch of coaching. We have a lot of coaches. We coach pastors, rescue churches. I'm actually going to talk about that at the end because you guys have been a part of that. I was here last year. We gave money to rescue churches. I'll talk about that in just a minute. And written a bunch of books and all that. More importantly, I've been married for 32 years. Yeah. Whoa. This is intense. I've been married for 32 years to a beautiful Mexican woman. Literally, her family is from Mexico. And she doesn't speak any English, but that helps us get along. You can't really argue about anything if you can't talk to each other. And let me tell you, though, when you go to the reunions, the Mexican food is off the chart. And we have two amazing children. And then we have this third one. No, I'm playing. And we have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old grandchildren, Mila and Ella, 2 girls. How many grandparents do we have here? Let me see, grandparents. Isn't it the best thing on the planet? Oh, it's so much better than parenting. Parenting is a farce. This is amazing, I'm telling you. It's God's gift to you for not killing your own kid. That's really what it is. I was holding my granddaughter recently, and my adult son says to me, "Dad, it's like you love her more." I said, "No, it's not like I do. I do." Pastor Rob, I literally said to him, I said, "You had a good run. It's over for you." Hey, it is awesome to be able to be with you. If you got a Bible, go to 1 Samuel chapter 17. We're going to take a look at that in just a moment. If you don't have a Bible, next time at a hotel, get one. They're free. I steal them all the time, and I sell them on eBay. It's a little side hustle. But hey, well, I want to jump into it. I want to minister to you for a few minutes, and then I want to turn the corner right at the end, and then be able to kind of turn the corner with you, if I could, at the end, and talk to you a little bit about how we're rescuing churches and how you guys have played a part in it and how you can play a part today. I'll talk about that at the end, but let me jump right into it. I do a lot of traveling, and one thing I hate being late. I love being on time. And I do, and that does not fly in my wife's world because they are late all the time. We take separate cars to everything all the time. But anyway, seriously, we do. But I love being on time. So I was late to a speaking engagement, and I'm going down the freeway. I'm flying down the freeway, doing a nice, good Christian 95. And as I'm flying down the freeway, have you ever done this? I'm flying down the freeway, and I'm saying a prayer at the same time. Have you ever done that? Have you ever ran a yellow light and said a quick prayer? Lord, don't let me get caught. May you be with me as I break the law. And so I'm flying I know I'm speeding way too fast. And I'm late for a speeding engagement. I look up, and I got a ways to go, still 45 minutes to go on the drive. And I look up in my mirror, and there's the red and blue lights. And so I'm like, oh, dear God, I'm going to be late even more, and then I'm about to pay a ticket. So I thought, what do I do? So I punched it. You probably saw it on the news. Here goes the helicopter. And so I'm flying down the freeway, and then he pulls me over, blah, blah, blah. And he gets out of the car, and you see him get out of the car, and he starts walking towards the car. And I'm like, here we go. This is a nightmare. And I look down, and I see my Bible. And I do something that I just know you're going to judge me for. And I'm just going to be honest with you. And don't you love it when a pastor says, can I be honest with you? Because I'm always thinking, what have you been doing up to this point? But anyway, I take the Bible and I put it on my dashboard. Is that horrible or what? Because I'm thinking, maybe he's one of us. He'll let me off the hook. So he comes walking up, license and registration, please, and he looks through the window, and the whole time he's talking to me, his eyes are going like this. And he's looking at my Bible, and I'm like, I got him. This is amazing. And so he's like, I'll be back in a second. He goes back. I look back up in the mirror. He's writing the ticket. And I'm thinking, what happened, And I thought I had him. He came back up, and he gives my license registration, sign here, do this, tells me a bunch of stuff. And then he says, all right, man. He keeps looking at my Bible. He goes, all right, well, drive safe. Have a good day. And he starts walking away. He leans his head back in my window, points at the Bible, and said, oh, by the way, read Romans 13:1. Now, I got a lot of the Bible memorized, but I don't have that verse memorized. He took off. I opened it up. Obey the laws of the land. My luck, I had to get a Christian cop, and I'll never do that again. You know what he's really telling me? He's really telling me, hey, buddy, you might want to follow all of the Bible, not just part of the Bible. You ever notice how easy it is to follow part of it, not all of it? I love God's forgiveness when I mess up, but I don't love it so much when someone betrays me and he wants me to still forgive them. I love it when God says, man, I want to bless you. I want to pour out a bucket of blessing on your life. I don't know if I always love the fact that I always have to be generous. And so we like one part, but maybe we don't like the other part. And not only that, I think when it comes to the Bible, I have found it really easy to claim God's promises for my friends than I do for my own life. You ever thought about that? Oh, you can trust God, my friend. He'll come through for you. You can trust him with your money. You can trust him with your life. And then I'm thinking, but it's not so hard. It's easy to claim the promises for someone else, but not for our own life. That's as old as the Bible. There's a struggle sometimes. You go back 3,000 years, and these guys were having a hard time claiming God's good promises for them. They could see it for other people, but for not themselves. Let me take you back 3,000 years ago to a story you might have heard of. Even if you're new to church, you probably heard this story. It's about David and Goliath. And here's basically the story. On this side of the valley, and I've been there before, it's a literal valley. On this side are the bad guys, the Philistines. They're fighting. They've got this guy, Goliath. He's 9'6" tall. He's a warrior of a man. They're on this side. They're winning the battle. On this side is the people of Israel. It's the army of Israel. They're losing the battle, and they're afraid of Goliath. Matter of fact, they wouldn't even go out and fight him. He would come out and taunt them, make fun of God, make fun of them, and then they would be over there, and they would be afraid, and they wouldn't want to come out and fight. So this standoff was happening. Go up the mountain a few miles, and you've got this dude named Jesse who's got a bunch of sons. He comes to the sons and says, sons, you guys need to go fight too. So they take off. David, the youngest one, says, I'll go with them. He says, no, you're too young. Now, we don't know how old David was, but we do know this. We do know that he was under the age 20 because he didn't take the consensus that year. So he's probably between 17 and 19 years old. So let's call him 18 years old. The dad says, sons, you go fight with the army of Israel because they're losing. But David, you're so young and you've never fought before, you stay and tend the sheep. Now, that is a major put down because it's like your brothers are strong enough, but you're not strong enough. Then one day, several days go by, the dad says, hey, your brothers must be hungry. He tells David out there tending the sheep, take this basket of cheese and bread and deliver it to your brothers. How demeaning is that? They're off fighting, and you deliver this cute little basket like your little Red Riding Hood, and I want you to deliver it to your brothers. He arrives on the scene. David's got this cute little basket. The brothers are sitting there. They won't go out and fight. The army of Israel won't fight. Philistines are over there taunting God and making fun of them. And that's when David shows up on the scene with the little basket. Ready? As soon as the Israelite, we pick it up at verse 24, chapter 17, 1 Samuel 17, 24. As soon as the Israelite army saw him, they began to run away in fright. Have you seen the giant? They're talking about Goliath. The men ask, he comes out each day to defy Israel. The king has offered a huge reward to anyone who kills him. David asks the soldiers standing nearby, what will a man get for killing this Philistine and ending the defiance of Israel? I love this 18-year-old kid. He says, who is this pagan Philistine anyway that he's allowed to defy the armies of the living God? So David comes along and goes, you guys aren't fighting. You're not doing anything. To his brothers, you're just sitting here. How come you're letting this guy get away with it? Here's first thing I want you to write down if you're taking notes, and that is this. What others choose to accept, David chose to reject. Now, here's the thing. The people of army of Israel, they're sitting there. They won't go out and fight. Now, understand something. They already made a deal. Goliath said, there's a deal. If you guys win, I'll serve you as a slave, and if I win, you serve me as a slave. Here's what was happening. They were basically saying this, we're done. We can't beat the Philistines. We can't beat Goliath. We'll just sign up for slavery. And David comes along and says, oh, no. I reject that idea. I think that's a horrible idea. And I want us to bring it back into our own world. How many times do we walk into our situation and we accept so much less than God's best for our life? We accept less in our finances. We accept less maybe in our marriage, less in our relationship with our kids, less in our own career. We accept less. And David comes along and goes, man, I'm not going to accept that in my life. See, I've noticed that for a lot of us sometimes, I think that we're born with a shout, but we end up with a whisper. That we're born with this idea of dreams, but they turn into routines. And David says, man, I don't think we should live that way. And I want you to begin to think about, what are some things in your life where you're like, I'm accepting that. Understand something. You cannot change what you choose to tolerate. You can't change it. And how many have some things in your life where it's like, I'm tolerating that, I'm dealing with that, I accept a little bit less, and David comes along and says, no, that's not the way we're going to do it. We accept so much less than our life. I do a lot of flying, about 150 to 200 a year, did 161, I think, last year. And so I do a lot of flying. And I still don't like flying because I'm still scared. I don't know why, which basically means I'm scared half of my life. And you ever notice the last thing you see before you get on the plane is the word terminal? Who came up with that idea? You ever thought about that? Like terminal? It may as well say you're going to die, you know. And so I'm thinking this is a nightmare. So I do a lot of flying. So a few years back, I get stuck at the Dallas airport for a layover for like 2 or 3 hours. I see a buddy of mine, and he's like, hey, dude, haven't seen you in a while. We give each other a hug. He's like, I got a delay for a few hours. I go, so do I. This is what he says to me. Let's go to the Admiral Lounge. I fly all the time. I said to him, I go, Admiral Lounge? I go, that's for pilots. Now, I don't know anybody that flies a lot in here. It's not for pilots. It's for people that fly a lot. It's like this really cool area of the airport, of big airports, where you could go in and listen to this. Like over here is McDonald's and all the kids are throwing french fries at each other. But over here, you walk into this door and listen to this. There's a restaurant. There's a masseuse. There's showers. There's a guacamole bar. It is the best thing in the world. Literally, you open the door and you walk into this thing called Admiral Lounge. I fly all the time. I had no idea that this thing was called an Admiral, because to me it sounds very pilot-y, doesn't it? Admiral, you know. And so I was like, well, he goes, nobody, what are you talking about? We can go in there. It's for people that fly all the time, people that are members. I said, oh, okay, whatever. So I go in there with him. The doors open up, and you could hear the angels. It was amazing. Because over here, it's all, the terminal is nasty, and everybody's screaming and yelling. It's busy, but you walk in, and it's just quiet and beautiful and peaceful, and restaurants and masseuses and showers and guacamole bars. It is the most amazing thing in the world. We walk in, the lady behind the counter goes, and what's your name, sir? She takes his name, and he goes, and this is my guest, Chris Sonksen. She puts my name in. This is what she says. Oh, Mr. Sonksen, you've been a member for 7 years. I've been a member for 7 years. For 7 years, I've been hanging out at the bottom of the Titanic with Leonardo when I could have been over here with the lady with the necklace. That's what you're telling me? For 7 years. You ever thought about that? That maybe I think the same thing could be true for God. For 7 years, we've been over here, and the whole time he's going, you can come on in anytime you want. You can come on into the life I have for you. You can come on into the things that anytime you want to come on in. You see, that's what was happening over here in that warrior situation. These guys were like, forget it, we'll just be slaves. And David's going, that's not what God has for me. And he was stepping into something greater. Now, let's go back to the story. David mouths off, what you guys doing? I can't believe. He's only 18 years old. The king, Saul, overhears him and says, come over here, David. Takes him into this tent. They have a little private conversation. This 18-year-old kid has got an audience with the king. It's an unbelievable setting. Think about what that would look like in this big old tent and the king and David. 18-year-old, never fought before. Here's the conversation. Now let's pick up the conversation, verse 32 through 37. Don't worry about the Philistine. David told Saul, I'll go fight him. Think about that for a moment. 18-year-old David. I've never fought before, but don't worry about it. I'll go fight him. Now look at his response. I love it. Don't be ridiculous, Saul, the king replied. There's no way you can fight this Philistine and possibly win. You're only a boy, and he's been a man of war since youth. And I love David's answer, but David persisted. I've been taking care of my father's sheep and goat. Can you imagine? Think about that. Don't you worry, king. I take care of sheep and goats. And then he says, when a lion or a bear comes to steal a lamb from the flock, I go after it with a club and rescue the lamb from its mouth. If the animal turns on me, I catch it by the jaw and I club it to death. I've done this both lions and bears, and I'll do it again to this pagan Philistine too, for he has defied the armies of the living God. Oh, I love the boldness of David. The Lord who rescued me from the claws of the lion and the bear will rescue me from the Philistine. Love that. Here's the second thing I want you to write down. If you're taking some notes or taking pictures, it is this, is that David knew the battle belonged to the Lord, but the fight belonged to him. Don't miss this part right here. David knew that the battle belonged to the Lord, but the fight belonged to him. What did David say? Hey, when the lion came along, I clubbed it to death. When the bear came along, I ripped its jaw apart. And then at the very end, he goes, but the Lord rescued me because it's his battle. Well, which one is it? Did he have to fight, or was it the Lord's battle? David would just say yes. His battle belongs to the Lord. There's no doubt. But the fight belongs to me. It's the same thing for you and I. Even if you're new to this faith thing or new to this Christianity thing, or you're just checking out church, or you're here for the free donuts, whatever reason you're here, the battle belongs to the Lord. He loves you. He cares about you. The battle belongs, help me out, to who? The Lord. But the fight belongs to us. We're the ones that got to fight. What does that mean? What did David understand? He says, I clubbed this guy and did this, but the battle belongs to the Lord, but the fight belongs to me. Let me have a chance. I'll fight. I think that's the same thing that would be true for us. The battle belongs to the Lord, but the fight belongs to us. Hey, if you need help in your marriage, that fighting might look like getting some counseling. The battle belongs to the Lord, but the fight belongs to you. You got problems with your finances, you might need some help, some guidance, some wisdom. The battle belongs to the Lord, but the fight belongs to you. He's going to help you, but the fight belongs to you and I. If there's an addiction, if there's a problem, if there's an issue, the battle belongs to the Lord. The fight belongs to you and I. A few years ago, we went to did a sprint triathlon. I will never do that again, ever. I did it with like 7 or 8 staff members. It's like 25 miles riding a bike, like 5 miles running, and a mile swimming in the ocean. And it was about 4 years ago, and I just finished last night. It took a while, and I'm telling you, it was a nightmare. And I do a lot of, I do some surfing and stuff in Southern California where I live. I live at the beach. We do some surfing and all that. But, I don't know, I don't think this is a place with a lot of big waves on the East Coast, but waves are a big deal in Southern California. It's where all the surfing tournaments are. And man, the thing is, if you have a big set of waves and they're breaking closer to the shore, at least middle ground, you get hit and you can go down about 10 feet, hit the sand, and come back up. So that's good. But when they're way out there and they break, you go way down, you can't hit and come back up. You can't hit the sand. And I remember getting there that morning at 6 in the morning, and there's like 500 people, and they're sending them out in heats of 50, and I'm standing right there, and I'm looking out there thinking, I know the ocean pretty well. I'm thinking, man, those are set. They're huge waves, 10, 12 feet, and they're way out there. This is going to be a disaster when you're swimming in, and you're getting tired, and you go down, and you can't spring back up. I'm scared. I literally am scared. I'm standing next to this guy, and I don't know who he is, never met him before. They're all 30 seconds. Everybody's getting ready, 30 seconds to go out. We're going to take off. You know, we do the swimming, and then the biking, and then the running. I'm standing there, 30 seconds, and the guy next to me, I don't know who he is. He looks at me and goes, hey, man, you ever done this before? I go, dude, I've never done this in my life. And I said, I go, how about you? And he goes, oh, man. He goes, this is my 3rd one this year. Then he goes, but I've never seen waves like that. I'm like, well, that's encouraging, you know. So they hit the clock, you know, boom, the gun or whatever. And so we take off, and we're swimming half mile out, half mile back. As we're coming in, they are pulling people out. They pulled out him. They had jet skis just pulling people out because people were drowning because it was out so far. And I saw I looked up, and I thought there's one jet ski, and it just rescued someone. And I looked around, and I thought there's no jet skis out here. They're all up there. They just rescued the guy next to me. And I'm sitting there just thinking, I'm going to drown. And I'm thinking, Lord, you need me more than you do him. Get him off the jet ski. No, So I'm swimming, and I am literally scared to death. And the whole time, 2 things were happening. I was praying, and I was paddling. I was praying, and I was paddling. Never once did I say, Lord, I don't need to paddle. I just need to pray. Can you imagine? I just stop right there, and the waves are hitting me. It's all you, Lord. He's like, no, it's all you, dummy. I had to pray, and I had to paddle because I knew that the battle belonged to the Lord, but the fight belonged to me. And that's anything in life. You got to pray and you got to paddle. You got to do both. And that's what David was talking about in this situation. Now, here's a couple quick truths I want to point out to you really fast, is this. And it won't come up on the screen. Just let me give them to you. Goliath wasn't David's greatest battle. Don't miss this. Goliath wasn't David's greatest battle. Goliath was David's greatest blessing. You know why? Because once he slain Goliath, which is not a spoiler alert because we all know the story, once he slain Goliath, guess what he got? He got $750 million in modern times. That was his reward. He also got the daughter of the king as his wife. That was his reward. Him and his family didn't have to pay taxes for the rest of their lives. That alone would have been enough for a fight. But Not all of that, because understand that Goliath was not David's greatest battle. It was David's greatest blessing. Once he dealt with that issue in his life, once he's slain that giant, it opened up so much in his life. Please understand something. There is a reward behind your giant today. Whatever you're facing, whatever that thing is, like, man, I got to slay that. I got to deal with that. Once you deal with it, there is a reward behind the giant. Here's the other thing. It won't come up on the screen, but I just want to give you this. We often say, and we even have songs about it, that God sent David to kill Goliath. And there's little songs in Sunday school and all that. God sent David to kill Goliath. You ever thought about this? That maybe God didn't send David to kill Goliath, but that God sent David, or God sent Goliath to reveal David? God didn't send David to kill Goliath, but God sent Goliath to reveal David. It revealed who he really was. The warrior, becoming the second king of Israel. It revealed to the world who he really, really was. Nothing in your life will reveal your heart and your character more than when you face a battle. Character is not only made in crisis, it's displayed in crisis. Our character will really come out. It's like, man, okay, when you're facing that marriage issue, that financial issue, your character will come out. Your character will come out when you're facing that issue in your life, that stronghold in your life. Your character will always come out. Now, let's go back to the story, okay? Third and final thing. So David says, King, I can do this. I can fight him. Remember, I take on sheep and goat. I can do this. And the king goes, all right, smart out the little kid. Let's take care of this. He gives him some equipment. David goes, this equipment doesn't fit me. He grabs his slingshot. It's not a normal slingshot, but it's somewhat like that. We'll just go with that for now. And he goes over to the stream, and he picks up 5 rocks out of the stream. Puts them in his shepherd bag. That's important. Don't forget shepherd bag. He puts them in his shepherd bag. He heads out to the valley, to the area where the battlefield is, and he's about to take on Goliath. So here's David, 18 years old, never fought before in his life. Got a little slingshot, got 5 stones, and here's Goliath with big old swords and spears and javelins, and now they face off. Check out. This is an intense scene. It's amazing. David replied to the Philistine, you come to me with a sword and spear and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of heaven's armies, the God of the army of Israel, whom you have defied. Today the Lord will conquer you, and I will kill you and cut off your head. And then I will give the dead body of your men to the bird and the wild animals. This is the first Walking Dead episode, if you've never seen it. And the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. And everyone assembled here will know that the Lord rescues his people, but not with the sword and spear. This is the Lord's battle. Oh, there it is again. Battle belongs to the Lord. This is the Lord's battle. He'll give it to us. As Goliath moved close to attack, David quickly ran to meet him, reaching into his shepherd's bag. Remember, he has 5 stones in there. He takes out one of them. He hurls it with a sling and hit the Philistine in the forehead. The stone sank in, and Goliath stumbled and fell face down on the ground. What an amazing story. Here's the third thing I want you to write down. When others stood on the sideline, David stood on the front line. Everybody stood on the sideline. Don't miss this point right here. This is really good. Don't miss this. The same God that David served was the same God that the king served, except for David stood on the front line. The same God that David served was the same God that the army of Israel served, but David stood on the front line when they were on the sideline. The same God that David served was the same God that his brothers served, but they stood on the sideline. David stood on the front line. You ever look at certain people and think, man, God just seems to bless them? You ever thought that maybe they just stand on the front line? Maybe they just get to work? Maybe they battle harder. Maybe they want it more. It's not that God likes them more. It's just maybe they're more on the front line when some of us are on the sideline. You ever thought about that? I think about that in my life all the time. Now, let me kind of turn the corner. I wanted to share a little rescue moment with you. This is really good. We often focus on the bag and we ignore the basket. You ever thought about that? Think about it for a minute. The bag had the stones that represented what killed Goliath. The basket just represented the food. You see, David didn't come down from the mountain to battle. David came down from the mountain to serve. You ever thought about that? He didn't come down the mountain to battle. He didn't come down the mountain to fight. He didn't come down the mountain to show off and go after Goliath and do what he did and do all that. He only came down the mountain to serve. It was the basket that brought him to Goliath. It was the basket that brought him to the battlefield. And it was the basket that got him all the rewards. He didn't come to fight. He came to serve. It was the basket that brought him everything. The serving. And I think that's such a great thing for you and I. It's the serving that makes all the difference. So my challenge to you today is, man, think about that. Like, God, how can I serve you? How can I be on the front line, God? How can I battle, Lord, and fight, God, because everything I want is waiting for me in that Admiral Lounge that you're inviting me to. I don't know what you're facing. I don't know what battle you're going through. I don't know what things happening in your life. I have no idea. But if we had time and we went around, we all got battles. Every one of us got something that's bothering us, something that's going on. And I know this much, that we've got to choose to say, I'm rejecting being like this anymore. I want what's better. I want what God has for my life. And I refuse to accept that. And I am going to do all that I can to fight. I know the battle belongs to the Lord, but I'm going to fight, and I'm going to stand on the front line. Do that today. Watch God deliver you from some of these things in your life today as you stand on the front line and get off of that sideline and watch what God does. And it all starts with serving. God, here's my life. It's the only reason he came down the mountain. He didn't come down to fight. We missed that. He only came down to serve. It was the only reason he was there. And that's what opened up everything else. We all have battles, but I told you at the beginning that I would share with you the battles that we have, that we're all facing in our life, and we talked about that. But then I want to talk to you about a battle that we all share. And I talked about this last year. How many were here last year when I shared? Some of you were here. Okay. And we all have these battles that kind of go on in our life, but then we also have battles that happen with all of us together. And there is a battle that we're facing here in America, and it's the battle for the local church. I love the local church. I love Jesus, and I love his bride. The bride is the local church. We're the bride. But, man, we are in trouble. And I remember a few years ago, I got some pastors together, and I just like, man, we all got together, and I was like, man, we're facing a crisis here. We've got some serious issues. We've got churches that are shutting down and things that are going on, and, man, this is bad. And we're talking about before the pandemic and after the pandemic. This is bad. We see a lot of churches struggling. And, man, I don't know if you've ever Googled it. Maybe when you get home later today, you can Google churches closing, churches whatever, however phrase you want to use. But here's some of the headlines that will come up. Put it on the screen for me. Milwaukee Independent, right in the middle, in the yellow, the America Church is dying. Top left, the Hill, church going in belief in God stand at a historic low. These are all in the last 12 months. America Church is top right. America Church is closing faster than new ones can open. Denver News, churches closing their doors in record numbers. The Washington Post, church membership has fallen below the majority for the first time in nearly a century. Guys, all you got to do is just Google churches closing, church membership falling, and look at the stats. They're unbelievable. Now, stay on that one right there. If you dig deeper into those articles, here's what you're going to find. In 2014, America closed more churches than it opened. And that has continued for 9 straight years. 9 straight years, America has closed more churches than it's opened. And we're seeing it over and over. We're averaging 100 to 200 churches per Sunday that are currently closing. Did you catch that? Not 100 to 200 a month or a year, per Sunday. Think about that. Let that for a moment sink in. Somewhere in America, 100 to 200 churches are having their last service right now. Defeated. 100 to 200. If you look deeper into those articles, you'll find that 84% of all churches are in decline. Less than half America is even claiming a faith anymore. We have seen it. How many used to say, come on, especially if you're kind of 40 and older, it's like, we're not the same America we were 20 years ago. You can now say, we're not the same America we were 2 years ago. Am I right? Is it different or what? Come on, man. It's like common sense has become a superpower. It's unbelievable. A little sarcasm, insert sarcasm. And so we got together and we're just like, and look at this real quick. Go to the next one. In the year 2000, average church attendance in America. Average church was 137 people. In 2020, it's 65. and it continues to drop. And it's dropping like crazy. And we're losing churches like crazy. You guys, we cannot stand on the sideline and watch churches die. That's what these guys were doing. We got to get on the front line. Because one of these days, whether that's later today or in 30 years from now, we're all going to stand before Jesus. And I got to tell you, and I know this is sounding I'm not making it sound all hard and heavy, but I know this much. When I stand before Jesus, I don't want him to look at me and go, you lived in America, the churches were dying, and you knew about it, and you did nothing. There is no way I want to have that conversation with Jesus. So we got together and we're just like, well, what could we do, man? And we're like, well, what if we, I told one of the guys, I go, what if we start something? I had a bunch of pastors in the room and I said, what if we do something like bar rescue? And then I asked the pastors, how many have ever seen bar rescue? None of them raised their hand. I'm like, you liars. And, oh, no, not me. I was praying and fasting. I go, have you ever seen bar rescue? They're all, yeah. I go, what if we did something called church rescue? We have a coaching thing called Church Boom, but what if Church Boom launches this thing called Church Rescue? And what if we gave like 1 to 2 years of free coaching to churches? And now we're even adding, what if we added a 4-day retreat in the middle and we paid for it all? So this church of 20 or 30 that's about to close their doors, they could jump into our coaching and get up to 40 and 60 and 80. We can get them over 100. We can get them out of the emergency room. We'll coach them for free. We'll pay for it. We'll pay for the retreat. We'll pay for all of it. What if we did that and gave them resources? And what if they needed some emergency funding, like the roof was leaking as their church is coming back, but they have no money and they need 10 grand? What if we're able to help them with that? And everybody got excited. And 2 years ago this month, 2 years ago this month, Church Rescue launched. And all led, your pastor does some of the coaching, all led by lead pastors all across America. It's a movement. It's not about me. It's a movement of healthy churches like Next Level that are helping unhealthy churches get out of the emergency room and help them again. And so we're just raising money, and we're getting people to support, and we're all across America. There's a Rescue Sunday going on here. There's one going on in Texas. There's one going on in Phoenix, all happening right now. And we're just saying, man, what if we just raise money? We don't get anything out of it. What if we just raise money, and we could give it away to help these churches? And started 2 years ago. And, man, just in the last 12 months, we've had over 300 churches come through the Rescue Initiative. And we've resourced and helped 300 churches. Let me show you real quick what's happened. Real quick. Go back to the thing. A couple pictures for me. First one is next one. First one is a buddy named Alejandro Lara in San Antonio, Texas. He calls us up, man, hey, our church is 40 or 50. I've heard about your rescue program. How do I get involved? What can I do? This was about 16 months ago. He was kind of new to it. And I just talked to him about 2 weeks ago, and I said, Alex, your church was 40 or 50. You guys were thinking about closing the doors. Where are you now? He said, bro, he goes, last week we had 185 people in our church. That's a rescued church. And we believe rescue churches rescue America, and it also rescues people. Here's another one, real quick. It's Joel Wood in New Mexico. I remember when he called us up, man, our church is dying. We're going through some situations, about 50 people in our church, and I don't know how we're going to pay the rent. Man, we helped them out. Long story short, I just literally was on the phone with him 2 weeks ago, and he goes, bro, we've gone 2 straight weeks in a row over 300. I don't know how it's happening, but it's happened. That's another church rescued. Come on, people. That's amazing. Here's another one named Charles right here from Phoenix, Arizona. Charles, leave that one up there for a minute. Charles, he just called us, I think, 7 months ago. 7 months ago, 40 to 50 people, discouraged, not sure what to do, on and on and on. One of his coaches called me 4 or 5 days ago. I said, how's Charles doing? He said, man, it's only been 7 months. They're going to a second service. Last week they had 155 people in their church. The Nether Rescued Church. Keep that picture there. Keep that picture. Hold on. There's a guy I'm going to show you right now. A guy named Brian. Now, he came in a little bit before our rescue. We just started coaching, and then we put him into our rescue program. So he's been with us for over 2 years. I'll never forget Brian because I answered the phone on that one. I normally don't. At this point, we just have way too many things going on. But I remember talking to Brian, and I remember him crying so hard, Pastor Rob, it took about 60 seconds of me just like waiting for him to catch his breath because he was crying so hard. He goes, I'm a failure. I was given this church because the pastor abandoned it. And he goes, I'm just going to give it back. I'm a loser. I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, he was saying every horrible thing about himself, crying and like going, I don't know what to do. It was just, it was the most difficult thing. And I said, bro, we're going to help you. So we ultimately started coaching him. Then we put him into our rescue initiative. We started helping him with funds and all sorts of different things. And 3 or 4 months ago, this is what Easter Sunday looked like for them. Isn't that amazing? Rescued churches rescue people. And we are rescuing churches across the nation. Your pastor, in a moment, not yet, but your pastor is going to give an opportunity to help rescue some churches. And man, we could use your help. We really could. And you don't give to us. You give through us. Because we give it all away. We just constantly are helping. We have no overhead. None. Because we have an outside source that takes care of all the overhead. We have none. It's not 80%, 90%, 100% to help. Your pastor will lead you in that moment. But your church has been so generous. You've been helping through your missions. Some of your missions, you've taken us on as a mission. You supported last year. You support every month with different things. You guys are amazing. I want to give you a free gift. There's a book. Show the book if you could for me real quick. There's a book called Unboxed by Martine. He's one of our lead team members. Incredible book. Get your phone out right now. Don't act like you don't know where it's at. You've been texting each other. Where are we going for brunch? Don't act like you haven't been doing that this whole time. This is a book called Unboxed. I literally just want to give it to you for free. This is an incredible book. Really matches this message about how we get to the next level. Throw the QR code up there. Hit that QR code. Just grab that QR code. It is a free digital book. I think it'll ask your name and your email, and that's it. It's free. Absolutely free. How many love free? I love free. You had me at free. This is a free book we just want to give to you. Okay, I think it's like $28 on Amazon or something. We just want to give it to you and just say thank you so much for all that you do. Thank you for helping us rescue churches. Rescued churches rescue people. I want to thank you for doing that. I want to show you, make sure you get that. All you got basically is your name and your email, and then that's it. I want to show you this quick video of Pastor Muda from Detroit, Michigan. We came to the rescue with him from a church that was 40 or 50 and dying to now over 200. He was so discouraged, and he joined the rescue. This is one of many, 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 many churches that we've rescued. Thank you so much for coming to the rescue. Check out this video, and then your pastor will come.
So my wife and I really felt called and compelled to plant a life-giving church in an area of Southwest Michigan. It was a place that most people would not be running to plant a church. It was a pretty depressed community, but the call was really so strong. We knew that this is where God was leading us. But not too long from the time we launched, we started realizing that we really didn't know what we were doing. We came into this thing with the passion, but we didn't literally come with a really healthy plan. And ultimately, it was putting a strain on our relationship as a couple. And we were at a point where we're saying, maybe it's just time to throw in the towel. My wife and I really prayed for some sort of intervention, something that could step in and help us go from where we were to where we believe that God could lead us. And that's when we were introduced to Church Boom. Through Church Boom, we were able to get a coach who worked with us one-on-one. Plenty of times I was able to bring my team into it, and he was able to coach our entire team. We were able to develop some systems that would bring us back to health. There were some processes that we were missing in how we ran the church operationally, and even really some ways that I was not pastoring effectively. Our coach really walked us through that journey of getting the church back healthy. If you want to know what a rescued pastor, a rescued church looks like, you are looking at it. There was a woman who walked into the door because she was looking for a church in the community. And at her baptism a few weeks later, she shows up with her husband, her son, a few family members there as well too. And when she went down into the water, something happened in that room. not only was she baptized, but her daughter was baptized. Her husband, who had no intention of ever being part of a church, was baptized. Her son was baptized. Her brother-in-law was baptized. The entire family was baptized that day. And that's what a rescue church looks like. A church that is seeing new life born because of the generosity of your gifts. So thank you so much for being a part of what Church Boom is doing through your giving. It is literally rescuing not only churches, but it's rescuing lives.